Welcome to 3D Printing Nerd Studios, of course, proudly powered by PCBWay. Link in the description, 8% off. It's like free money. Finally, I get to tell you about the Micronics, I'm sorry, Mini Joel, the Micronics SLS 3D printer. This is the one that's launching on Kickstarter, and I think it's gonna be around $3,000 US, which means we finally have ourselves a consumer-based SLS 3D printer. It's about time. For those that may not know, SLS, or selective laser sintering, is a printing process where a laser sinters or melts material over and over and over again within a powder bed to build a part. And it's a really cool technology, but it's always been at the professional and the industrial level because a lot of times you had to maintain a clean room in order to operate these machines. And the machines themselves cost tens, if not hundreds, if not millions of dollars in order to acquire. It was well out of the reach of most everyone I know. Micronics is looking to change that with this right here, their SLS 3D printer. And I'm going to talk about the machine, but also within this is a finished print. Put it through the slicer, but I don't know if it was a success. It said it was a success. So what you and I are gonna do is find out together what it looks like. I do have my laptop here because there's a few things that I do wanna mention. The build volume on this is 160 by 160 by 203. However, the largest part size, 145 by 145 by 200. And supported materials right now are PA12, or nylon, and a TPU 90A. Within this right now, the prints I've been doing are PA12, but they're looking to add PA12 glass fiber, PA12 carbon fiber, PA11, and PP, or polypropylene. When they sent this originally, I did get a lot of parts with it, and one of them was, of course, a Mini Joel by Wexter, and I love the heck out of it. It looks great, and again, printed with their machine. These are the example parts they sent. They did also send a few Maker's Muse Makers coins, because I don't know, why not? They sent this, which is just fantastic. This is all a print-in-place mechanism right here, but printed on their machine in the SLS way. It can print all at once. Like being able to print this on an FFF style printer, you're looking for a bunch of headaches. And then also a bunch of these. They have like a little Veroni ball within a cube there, and they sent a bunch of those. So I will probably give these to my coffee shop, my local coffee shop where they sell some 3D prints, and then I'll have them give them out to customers who just might have some fun with them. I did do my own prints with the machine, and when they came out, they looked like this. They look just like that. And they look a little rough around the edges. They don't have that SLS look to them, and that's because I just brushed off the excess powder, and I didn't have a Media Blaster kit yet. But thanks to Jeff, a friend of mine from Twitter, he had a spare Media Blaster cabinet, so I got that. And so of the prints that I did myself, I then Media Blasted them, and look at those. Like, they look great. They look absolutely great. And I was really thankful that those prints all worked out. We got the Hulk right there. We got the thing. So then again, that's on the outskirts there are the non-media blasted ones, and then the two in the center have been media blasted. And my Media Blaster is just a cheap Harbor Freight cabinet, and I got 80 grit glass beads. But these look good, and I know you really want to see prints from this machine. The whole internet is abuzz of just wanting to know if it can work, because that's the dream of having that consumer level or consumer accessible SLS 3D printing. Like, can it be true? So far, it's true. One more print before we dive in, and that's, well, I'm going to show you something really cool. My buddy Jeff, who goes by Craft Computing, he's made this cool little thing. It's a temperature and humidity sensor for server racks, and he calls it the Axe Effect. And I've been printing some of these cases for him in FFF and Elegoo material. It actually looks cool. He likes green, but no one's perfect.
It's true.
And here, I've got one where I've taken it apart. The top comes off like that, and there it is. It's just a custom circuit board, right? So I thought, what if I was able to print these in SLS nylon? Jeff thought it was a good idea, and so I put it to work. So I printed them on this machine. I got them out. I media blasted them. They look great. They look better than great. Like they look fantastic and they have a really good feel to them. This also demonstrates that you can get really good dimensionally accurate parts with SLS because it just goes together just like that. You can pop it right out. So let's put that in there and let's put that right on top. Being FFF, the screws bit into the material and it should work as well with SLS, and it does. Okay, there we go. The axe effect, but SLS 3D printed. Oh, that's cool. All right, well, Jeff, I'll get these to you and I'll put a link down to, your video about it. That's really cool. I'm glad that you let me do that with this machine. I think what we do is we now open this up and take a look on the inside, and I can show you the build chamber and what that looks like. You open it like that, and there's your build chamber. And to get it out, you have to put a hand under here and grab here and just pull. Look at that. That is the build chamber. This thing in the corner, it almost, I want to ask it to open the pod bay doors.
I'm sorry, Dave. I'm afraid I can't do that.
This is the build chamber, and this is where powder is loaded. This is where the recoater is to bring over fresh powder per layer, and this glass top is where the laser shines through to sinter the material layer by layer by layer. I kind of moved some stuff around because I want you to be able to see in the top when we get what's called the cake out. When you have SLS 3D printing, everything prints within the powder itself. And so there's no support material because the unsintered powder is the support. And once you're done printing and once the sintered and unsintered material comes out, that whole of it is called the cake. And so I want you to see what happens when we take the cake out. So we can take this glass piece off and set it aside. Now this has batteries in it to be able to manipulate the build plate. And so what I'm gonna do is hit the up button for the elevator, and it will then make the build plate go up.
12 seconds later.
All right, that buzz, it does mean that we are at the top. And what you're looking at is a nylon cake. Now here, watch this, watch this. It has the consistency of really, really fine sand.
I don't like sand.
And because it's really, really fine, the danger now is inhaling a bunch of it. With resin printing, getting it on your skin can cause dermatitis, or you can become kind of allergic to it. But with this, if you breathe this in, as far as I know, we only get 2 sets of lungs, so, I mean, that's not a good thing. So it's at this point, I'm gonna put on gloves and a mask. And I'm gonna take off my sweet hoodie because I don't wanna get nylon powder on it. And I can't stress enough that getting one of these machines does mean investing in a quantity of these, because it's not a good idea at all to play with this stuff without the proper PPE. And so I've got my gloves. To get this out, what they have done is 3D printed a tool. And this is really indicative of this Kickstarter and this company. They're prototyping. I'm very well aware that this is a beta hand-built machine, and they're prototyping with plastic parts that they've printed. Shipping is not kind to them, and so seeing this is kind of really cool. To get this off, you set this down, and then you put this in at an angle, and then you scoop it up, and you put it in here. And this contains, there's a screen right there. So you take the cake, you put it on top of that screen, the unsintered powder falls to the bottom and can be reused. They do include this, and this is a dust filter or a particulate filter or a filter of some type, and you can just set it right there. Scooping it isn't really that much of a harm, but dumping it into here is. Once I turn this on, it's gonna get a bit loud. I can turn it off for now so I can tell you about the next step. But we have this cake. We have a cake in there, and you can manipulate it with your fingers or you can use tools, but the idea is to break it off and get all of your pieces that are inside out. This is a part. I found a part here, and because some parts for SLS can be delicate, you have to be careful during this phase, or you spill nylon powder on your desk. Another option within one of these is just listening to Taylor Swift and shaking it off. Put that top back on, and then just give it some shakes. But again, if you're dealing with very delicate or small parts, this might not be the best idea, and just taking your time to get it done might be what you need to do. It's a delicate balance. I don't know if you can see that right there, but that's a little JoelBot hand. You can use tools for this as well to get the majority of powder off. You can see how tedious brushing is. One of the arms for the Geomancer Joel. Just want to make sure I get everything out. Okay, there's a whole bunch of powder in there that I am going to shake down. Just get it to go through the sieve. What the heck?
Houston, we have a problem.
Okay, it's got a new hole. Yay, it's not my fault. Okay. Again, that's one of the dangers that you run into when dealing with SLS powder. You run into spills. It arrived with pieces broken, and I was just advised that I use duct tape to kind of cover it up so that I could actually use it. And it's worked for a few prints. I guess a new hole just sprung up. That's unfortunate. They did send the model out and the parts list for McMaster car, so I might be able to like print myself a new one. This was PETG on a no-name machine. Again, this is a Kickstarter. This is a beta machine, hand-built, and these are probably, hopefully, not going to look like this if you back the Kickstarter and get this machine. But hey, look at, we're all finding out things for the very first time together, aren't we? Let's take a look at the parts, how they came out with the brushing, and hopefully, editor Tucker can tell you just how much time was spent brushing and how much time I spent to get them to look like this, because then once I media blast these, we'll take another look and compare them and just show you how much time savings there are. So this is going to be Chainsaw Man, and there's the stand. Okay, so that's what they look like. The Geomancer Joel, not gonna lie, looks pretty freaking cool. Let's see if he can stand on his own. Here's one of the hands for him, or arms or something. I think it gets held like that. Yeah. And then here is the high five hand spell that Geomancer Joel casts. There's a JoelBot. Pay attention to the detail that you can and cannot see. Here is that is going to be the manta ray from STL Flicks. I don't have high hopes on it being articulated, but it'll look cool nonetheless. Now that you've seen what they look like with just a bit of brushing, let's go to the Media Blaster, blast them with the glass bead media, and then take a look at what a finished model that's been SLS printed can look like. One thing about media blasting, it can get really loud. You have to use an air compressor in order to do the stuff. So when the air compressor kicks in, it's gonna get really loud and you're not gonna be able to hear me. Here we go. Media blasting is done, and I'm not an expert at media blasting by any stretch of the imagination, but I think I'm starting to get the hang of it, and it's kind of fun. And I want to find other things to media blast. And what's also fun is having these finished models now that I can show you. Let's just start with the JoulBot. Why not? Look at the texture on the surface there. It's so much better. It's cleaner, it's crisper, and we've gotten all of that loose powder off of the JoulBot. And next up is Chainsaw Man. And there's a slot right there. You know what happened? I 2x scaled the blade, but I did not 2x scale the figure, which is why it doesn't fit up there. Oh well, that's rad. All right, here's the stand. Stand does not fit. I don't want to say dimensional accuracy failed here because it could be that these are 2x scale and this is not. I don't remember what I did.
I can't help but feel partially responsible.
I don't want to take that as a failure because the other stuff worked just fine. So I'll try this again at a later date and we'll get a proper Chainsaw Man bust. But they look good. All right, Joel the Geomancer with the hand. Look at that, huh? I summon the high five. When I was media blasting this one, you could see powder kind of coming off, and that's that caked on, unsintered powder that exists that really kind of obscures the quality underneath. Finally, let's talk about this. That is the STLFlix Manta Ray, scaled 50%. Oh, I'm getting some flexy. Oh, no. Is it working? Look at that. Look at that. Oh, but wow, nope. Flew too close to the sun. The Manta Ray is now broken. Well, that takes care of that. I cannot end this without telling you how much Kickstarter absolutely sucks. Kickstarter itself, all issues I have aside with that, Micronics is using it the correct way. It's a hand-built machine. It's analog components. It's 3D printed parts just to see if it works. These are the kind of things that a company looking for the type of funding that Kickstarter is meant for, this is what they do. And it's great to see. Now, this wasn't without problems. Obviously, shipping damage here. I did have a board blowout because a metal standoff was too large and it was causing common to short to ground, and I plugged it in where I may have had some voltage leaking to ground, which fried the board. They overnighted me one and I replaced it and I took care of the problem, but it found an issue for them. And in them referring to this as a beta unit, that makes sense. And so I like what they're trying to do here. I think the team at Micronics has something really special, and I think it could break open the SLS market on the consumer side, much like how Bamboo broke open the speed and quality markets with their X1 Carbon. It feels very similar in what they're trying to do. And Bamboo, as you know, massively successful. Micronics, I certainly hope so. Henry, who I deal with at Micronics, I don't know if he sleeps. Like, we joke around that I don't sleep. Like, I legit don't think he sleeps. He is smart and he doesn't sleep. But remember, it is Kickstarter. It's 100% Kickstarter. There are no protections. Only invest money into Kickstarter that you can afford to set on fire. I'm serious here. Don't go putting money into a Kickstarter if you cannot afford to set that money on fire. 100%. That being the case, if you do have the funds to cover this and it's not going to put you into a dire situation by backing it, and this is something you're interested, it's here. And it's cool, and if they can follow through with what they've delivered and the promises of upgrading and making it streamlined and mass producing things, we could have ourselves a really bright consumer SLS 3D printing future on our hands. And that's exciting. Well, there we go. We did that. We absolutely flippin' did that. We talked about the Micronics SLS 3D printer. I showed you the build chamber. We made the cake go up. We took it out. We found an extra hole in the sift container. We utilized the particulate filter, the air cleaner, the smoke cleaner, whatever it's called. I showed you models. I showed you the machine. It's up to you. I am not going to tell you to go forward with this Kickstarter, but it exists. These are the examples, and there's a link in the description where you can go find out more information and pledge if you want to. Well, if you made this far, you're awesome. Don't forget to hug each other more, fight for a cause you believe in. SLS print all the things because it's possible now. And as always, high five.